Hi, very good morning all. Welcome to the session. My name is Chaitanya, and I will be the trainer for the next 30 classes. So I hope that you know that today we are about to start a new session that is regarding the infrastructure development through the in the developer end. So if you see here, first of all, I just want to show you, or else I just want to tell you what are the basic things for learning this DevOps. So it is not a DevOps course. It is not completely into DevOps. So it is a part of DevOps that we are learning. So what we are learning here. So first of all, you need to understand what are the topics that we are going to cover in this sessions. Again, I am saying this is not complete DevOps. Okay. The first one is here we are about to learn Terraform. Okay. And then the next concept is Docker. And the next concept is Ansible. These are the topics that we are going to cover in this sessions. Terraform, Docker, and Ansible. And I will, these are the primary three topics that we are about to complete. But here as a small gesture of others, you need to understand the basics. You need to understand the basics of the Git also. So I'm not completely into the Git as it is not included in your syllabus. I'm just providing the basics of the Git so that will be helpful whenever we go for the Terraform, Docker, and Ansible. So here, these three tools are helpful for the infrastructure developers, not for the developers. So software developers are different and infrastructure developers and infrastructure admins are different. Both are not similar. So before going for that, I want to introduce, first of all, everyone knows about the DevOps. So can anybody say what is this DevOps topic? As I don't know what is DevOps, can you tell me what is DevOps? Waiting for your response, guys. So what is this DevOps? Can anybody say about this? So I have so many like Hakim, SK, Lakshmi. Yeah. Suresh, go on, go on.
Yeah, the one who take care of the complete infrastructure maintenance from end to end, from starting continuous deployment and till the services provided to in the production.
Very good. So here you have mentioned that infrastructure, which is a small correction for with that. So I have to provide a small correction for that. Anyways, first of all, DevOps. If you differentiate the term, this is the DevOps is a combination of two different terms. One is development and the other one is operations. Operations, or I can call it as infrastructure management. So whenever a client, first of all, for your, if at all, if your company is a IT service company, just try to understand this. If your company is an IT service company, it will provide the IT services to the clients. It will provide the IT services to the clients. What are the different IT services that a IT service company will provide? Software, servers, networking, everything, the application regarding all the things will be available or provided by the IT service company to the clients. Who are these clients? These clients are nothing but your what I can say. They might be like banking sectors, hospitals, and not only that, any food delivery apps are also any companies, any grocery deliveries, your Amazon, Flipkart, any e-commerce websites. These are all the clients of one of your IT service companies. Now they are going to provide the IT services like applications and servers to that particular client. Now here you need to understand the concept. So this, whenever the client approaches to the IT service company, client will ask the IT service company that I want an application. I want an application so that my customers or else my clients will be easily accessible to my products through that application. Whatever the product that I am providing. If a bank is there, what are the banking products like? I can call them as shares or else I can call them loans, credit cards. These are all the products of the banking sector. Okay, so whenever the user is whenever the client is accessing those banking applications, they can access those products. Now, so that is the reason the client will approach to the IT service company and they will ask for a application. Now, what IT service company is going to do? First of all, they will understand the user requirements. The developers will understand the user requirements And here they are going to develop the application. So first of all, there will be the developers. These developers will develop the application. Okay. So here in this phase, what they are going to do? They are going to do R&D. R&D in the sense research and development. Which type of application that the user is asking for, and what is which type of code I have to use in the front end, and which type of code I have to use in the runtime, like whether I have to use Python, Java, or else if I use Python, which type of another like in Python we are having sub services like Django and like that. They will search for the best possible language to create that application, and which type of database I have to use, whether I have to go for the SQL, MySQL, MongoDB, or what I can say PostgreSQL, which type of SQL services I have to use on all the configuration. They will understand, and they will start developing the code. The developer will start developing the code. After developing the code has to do building. So we will do the code build. So for code building, we are having some services like Maven for Java code building. If I want to build the code on Java, so there is a service or else there is an application called as Maven. And for Node.js, there is NPM. Like that, we are having, these are the basic code cloud building platforms that we are having to build our Java or else Node.js. If you have if you are doing Microsoft .NET type of project, you can have the what I can say Microsoft code building platform is also available. Like that, you can build the project. Once the project is built, now what you will do, you will send it for the code testing. So code testing in the sense, here we will do code testing. Okay, code testing can be done by multiple tools. So like that, either it might be Selenium manual testing. Now, whatever the tool that we are using here is SonarQube. It is one of the code testing tool where we are going to test our code with the help of SonarQube. These are the some of the tools that the developer is going to use before they send the code into the infrastructure. Before they deploy the application into the infrastructure, first they will do the research and development. And here you are having versioning tool also. Here I can call it as versioning. Versioning can be done by the tools, some of the tools, and those tools are nothing but your Git, Bitbucket, like that, Subversion. These are the some of the versioning tools. Here, what is meant by versioning tool, we will discuss about that. But as of now, this will comes under your development phase. This will comes under your development phase. Once the application is developed, once the application code testing, everything is developed, then they have to send this code. They have to send this code to be deployed inside the servers. So there comes the operations team. There comes the operations team. I will simply call it as ops team or operations team or administration team. Here, depending upon the application requirement, we are going to create the servers. So the operation team is going to create the servers. So here you can create the virtual servers or else any servers with the help of a tool called as Terraform. Here you will get a tool called as Terraform for automating every whatever the servers that we want and whatever the environment that we want, we can automate everything by the Terraform. So we can build our on-premises environment with the Terraform. We can build our cloud environment with the Terraform. We can build AWS environment. We can build Azure, GCP, whatever the cloud environments that you are having. Every environment can be automated by your Terraform. If you want the servers, you can deploy the servers through Terraform. If you want load balancers, if you want auto scaling groups, whatever you want, you can create with the Terraform. And after Terraform, once you have created all the servers, what you can do here is you can go for the containerization. For if you want the containerization, if you want multiple applications to be run in a single server without virtualization and all the things, you can go for the containerization. Here we are going to implement Docker. We are going to implement Docker. So this Docker will help you in the containerization. You will understand all the concepts once we are into the subject. And the next one is Ansible. Ansible. So this is a tool which is configuration management tool. It will automate the installations. It will automate the package installations in our servers. If you want to install any package, So all the way, you don't need to log in into the servers. For example, there are 100 servers, and if you want to install the package in each and every server, every time you don't need to manually log into the server. If you have the configuration management tools like Ansible, Puppet, Chef, like this, if you're having any configuration management tools, you can simply write a code in the YAML scripting by YAML. So in the YAML scripting, you can write the code and you can forward that code to the 100 servers at a time. Within short span of time, you can create all the packages in all the servers parallelly. So the time will be reduced, and as well as the manpower can be reduced, everything will be automated. So here you need to understand the difference between the Terraform and Ansible. So Terraform is also going to create so here you need to understand the main difference between Terraform and Ansible is that Terraform is a tool which will be helpful for automating the complete infrastructure. When you're coming back to the Ansible, Puppet, and Chef, these are the configuration management ones, which means that once the infrastructure is created, once the servers are created, if you want to automate the installation of the packages and all the things, you can do with the Ansible and Puppet. So this is the main difference between the Terraform and Ansible. So now, whatever the classes that I am providing right now, this completely regarding this Terraform, Docker, and Ansible. Okay, Terraform, Docker, and Ansible. These are the concepts that we are providing today. The classes will be all around 30 working days. The class duration will be all around 30 working days, which means that there might be so 5 to 10 days plus or minus, which means that we can complete the classes by 25 days, or else we can complete the classes by 35 days also. So the tenure will be 30 days, but depending upon your understandability and all the things, sometimes it might be greater than 35, or else it might be less than 35. So what are the concepts that we are learning here? This is completely your infrastructure development. Here we can include the Git also. Here we can include the Git also. It is just like a tool that we are using. We are including the Git. Now, these are the concepts that you are going to learn. To learn these concepts, do we require any prerequisites are there? For example, if you want to learn any concept like Terraform, Docker, and Ansible, do you require any prerequisites, or else anything you want to learn before learning this? Yes, you have to have a brief understanding about AWS. Just a little bit of understanding, or else you need to have what is meant by VPC. You need to have an understanding about what is VPC and how we can configure the VPC load balancer. If you know about all those things, then this will be very easy to understand Terraform, Docker, and Ansible. So especially for Terraform, you need to have the understanding. You need to have knowledge on AWS. Definitely, you need to understand this. Once you understand the AWS config, if you have the knowledge on AWS configuration, then you can go further into the Terraform. Terraform will be very easy for that. And for Docker, you don't require any AWS knowledge. So Docker is separately as a software, we can use it as a tool, you can learn it. And then Ansible also, you don't require any further AWS knowledge. If you have basic AWS knowledge, then more than enough to learn the Ansible. But to learn Terraform, it is mandatory to have minimum knowledge on AWS. So not only this, if at all, the learning strategy for you should be like this. You have to learn Linux, and after that, you have to learn AWS or any cloud. I will simply call it as cloud platform. And after that, you need to learn the DevOps. In DevOps, you are having so many tools like Terraform, Docker, Ansible, Git, and SonarQube, Prometheus, and whatnot. You are having so many tools like this. Okay. So at least you need to pass this. Once you have completed that, then you can go for the Kubernetes. Okay. So Kubernetes, and then you can go further into one of the coding language like Python or Java. Any one coding language is mandatory to learn. So today we will be discussing about a half of DevOps topics like Terraform, Docker, and Ansible. We will start learning about that. Before that, you have to have a brief understanding about the Git. I will start the Git, and once the Git is completed, then we can dive into the Terraform. So after Terraform, we will go with the Docker and Ansible. So do you have any doubts regarding this? Any queries that you want to ask me? You can ask me right now. Queries, guys, questions regarding this Terraform, Docker, and Ansible. And if you have any queries further, you can ask me right now. Did you understand this? Did you understand the scenario? Why we are going for the concepts here? Do you understand the concept here? Is there any doubts you are having? Please go with the doubts. I said you that Git is not included in the concept. Git is not included in the topic, but to understand Terraform, like Terraform Enterprise, there is a concept called as Terraform Enterprise. To understand that, I will make you understand about the Git. Okay, so it is not in detail explanation, but what are the required things are there, we will go with the Git. Fine then. Now let us go back and
Hi.
yeah.
This is Parth. This side.
Yes,
So
Pardon.
actually, since the timing is at 10:30, sometimes
Mhm.
there will be calls and all. So are you going to provide the recorded videos if we are missing out some classes
Yes, you
and
have the
whatever,
recorded videos. You will have all the recorded videos of the classes.
and the notes will be there,
Note,
right?
notes will not be there. Do I have to do I have to dictate the notes? No notes will be
You
dictated.
like whatever the points you are writing right now. Suppose, for example, the things,
No,
the
no.
diagram.
I'm not going to provide any sort of notes. Notes in the sense I don't declare, I don't provide the notes in the sense I will not dictate you. There is no writing and all of that. You have to understand. So to prepare your notes, you are having the videos, right? Are
All
you
right,
able to?
yeah, got it.
Okay. So why we are providing the videos? So you are about to understand the concept through the videos, and as well as through the videos only you can write your notes, right?
Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any another queries? Okay. Now let's start. Let us start here. First of all, who are having the AWS knowledge? Whoever doesn't have the AWS knowledge, I will not say that it will be tricky for you, but some concept it will be most difficult for you to understand. I am not scaring you, but to understand some of the concepts, definitely you need to have the AWS knowledge. Any cloud knowledge is required. So I just want to know how many of you know the AWS? How many of you can understand AWS? At least raise your hand so that I can understand these many number of people know the AWS. If you don't say anything, I can go with the flow. I will go with the flow. And at a particular point of time, you don't know, I cannot do anything. Okay. Yeah, fantastic. I have only 2 responses. I just want to know how many people know the AWS. Only 2. Okay, fine. So now let us go back and discuss about first concept, that is Git. We will discuss Git as that is not included into your subject. It is given as a demo. So we will start the Git and we will go further into the next configurations of Terraform from Monday onwards. I think from Monday we will start. The classes will be from Monday to Friday. Weekdays will be there. Weekends you don't have any classes. So let's start learning Git. So before learning it, how many of you are working in the companies? I think there are several people who are working in the companies. I hope so. Anyways, so for example, high level about the cloud. Okay, that's fantastic. Who is this? Okay, pardon. If you have a basic EC2 knowledge, basic EC2 creation, that's enough for you for us. Suresh. Okay. Fine. So now my question is, I just want to ask you, if you are very good at cloud, whenever you attend for an interview, if I am an interviewer, I will just ask you only one question. How can you attach third-party SSL certificate to the load balancers? You can create the, if at all, no, I am not judging you and all the things. So if you know the cloud, that is well and good. Okay. Anyways, coming back to this, we need to discuss about the Git. First of all, we will start with the Git. So what is this Git? Do it have any abbreviation? Does Git have any abbreviation? Git doesn't have any abbreviation. It is just a word. So actually, the Git was developed by, as you know, all. So who has developed the Linux operating system? Who developed this Linux operating system? Who developed the Linux operating system? Linux operating system. I hope that everyone knows this. Okay. So the Linux operating system was introduced by Linus Torvalds. So, mhm. Okay. So that's not exactly the answer for that, Suresh. Thank you for the, anyways, thank you for the response. Anyways, coming back to the next concept. So here, the Linus Torvalds, who has developed the Linux operating system, he is the one who developed the Git. So Linus Torvalds will provide certainly some funny names for the for his inventions. So in the same manner, Git is also a funny name. So here the Git is nothing but unpleasant. If you check the dictionary, it is saying that Git is nothing but an unpleasant. Okay. But it is very helpful for the developers, and not only for the developers, for the infrastructure developers and all the persons. It is very helpful for us. So why it is helpful for us? Just take a scenario. Now a new person has joined in your company. A new person has joined in your company, and there is a project which is going on. There is a project which is going on, and he is a developer. Just for your understanding, or else he might be an infrastructure developer who is developing the code. When so previously you are having a project. For example, let me do like this so that you can have a clarity. There is a project which is running on in your company, and this is the project in the project folder or this project. And now what I want to do here is a new employee is joined in your company. Now he will reach to your manager and he says, hi, hello, how are you, and all the things. And manager says that we are very good and everything is going fine. Now that manager has to assign the work for the developer. Manager has to assign the work for the developer, and he will say to the developer that I will whatever the work that you have to do, whatever the project that you have to work it on, the project is available in the Git. So I will share you the project through Git. Go and access that. Now, as if you are a developer, if you don't know what is meant by Git, so you will sit beside one of your senior, and you will ask the senior that, boss, our manager has said that he will send me the project through the Git. As I don't know what is meant by Git, can you explain me? So the senior who is sitting besides you, he will say that a Git is a centralized repository, or else a Git is a versioning control where you can access all our data and all the things he will say in the high level technical language. When he says that, as a fresher, there might be a problem that you are encountering with. So the problem here is you will not understand what is meant by distributed version control, centralized version control. So all these new terms will be heard by you. So you will get confused, you will be feared out. So what you need to understand here is Git is a version control. So whenever there are multiple persons, so for example, this project is a web application project. So what happens whenever you are working on a project, the project will be divided into modules, or else divided into certain portions. Now that in the development team, you will have some 10 numbers of developers. So there will be sign in module, or else login modules. There will be homepage modules. Like that, they are going to develop this project. They are going to separate the project, and one module will be assigned to the one developer. So they will be working on that particular module. For example, there is sign in module. Okay. What I can do, this is called as sign in. Okay. And there is a home page module. You will have the home page module or a server module. Like that, you will be having so many modules. So each module is updated to each and every developer. So this is my home page, and there will be somewhere like any personal accessibility, or also, for example, like that, you will be having so many modules. and each and every module will be given to the each and every developer. So they will develop the modules. They will develop the code. Simply, I have to say they will develop the code. Once they develop the code, what they are going to do here is they will update the entire code into the centralized repository. They will update the entire code into the, simply I can call it as a server. They will update the entire code into the server. When they update the code into the server, the other person, the project manager, will access this code. The project manager will access project manager, or else the team lead will access the code. If there are any bugs or else any problems, so if there is any changes that he wants, he will reply on the same code. So this is called as where we are storing the data. We are storing the entire code in the centralized repository. So here there will be several problems with the centralized repositories, centralized accessibilities, or else storing the code in the centralized repository. We are having some problems. So to overcome those problems, we are going for the next concept called as distributed version control. So here you need to understand the main concept called as centralized version control versus distributed version control. So now what I will do here is central version control system versus distributed version control system. If you see here, what is the centralized version control, what they are saying, and what we have to understand from the distributed version control. If you see here, now many of us are aware of version controls when it comes to the work. Multiple developers on a single project or collaborated with them. So here you can see we will be using Git for the version control as far as the collaboration also. So collaboration in the sense multiple developers will collaborate with the same code. They will try to access the same code, and they will use the code, and they will enhance the code. To enhancement also you need the collaboration. So for that you are going for the Git. There is no doubt that the version control makes the developers very work more easily and fast. In most of the organization, developers use their centralized version control, that is CVCS, like Subversion, and concurrent version control or distributed version control like Git and Mercurial, right, in Python and all the things. Now, what we have to understand, we need to understand what is meant by centralized version control. In centralized source control, there is a server and client. So you will have a server. You will have a server in the sense, as I have already shown you this, you will have a centralized repository where you are going to store all your data. So the data can be stored. So the data cannot be stored in the local machine. By defaultly, we are directly storing that into the centralized machines. Okay. So here we are going to store the data. So that is what they are saying. The server is the master repository that contain all of the versions of the code. All the versions of the code will be available in the central repository. To work on the project, firstly, user or client need to get the code from the master repository or the server. So the client communicate with the server and push the code or current version of the code from the server to their local machine. In the other terms, you can say that you need to take an update from the master repository, and then you get the local copy of the code. So you have to communicate with the server, and from the server, you need to fetch the code into your local system. Local system is nothing but your computers, wherever you are working, your workstations are called as local copies, local machines. So once you get the latest version of the code, you can start making your own changes in the code, and after that, you simply need to commit those changes straight forward into the master repository. So I took the code from the server and I made some changes in the code, and then I will update all the codes into the server. Whatever the changes that I have made, I will commit in the sense I will save the changes into the central repository. So committing the changes simply means merging your own code into the master repository or making a new version of source code. So everything is centralized in this model. So if you go to the distribution, version control. So first of all, let us complete the errors that we are getting over in the central version control. There will be just one repository, and that will contain all the history or version of the code and different branches of the code. So the basic workflow involves in the centralized source control is getting the latest version of the code from the central repository that will contain other people's code as well, making your own changes in the code and then committing or merging those changes into the central repository. So you will have only a single repository where you can get all the codes, and there will be some branches. So for example, developer one is making some changes, then that is a developer one branch. Developer two is making some changes. You can have like that, you can have multiple branches. Now, when you come to the distribution version control, here in the distribution version control, you will have the local copy of the code. Now, when you see here in the central version control, you will have a single copy, which is in the centralized location. But when you come to the distributor version control, you will have the copy in the central server, and as well as you will have a copy in the local machine also. So in the distribution version control, most of the mechanisms or models applies as same as a centralized. The only difference you will find here is instead of one single repository which is in the server, here every single developer or client has their own server. So every client will have their own server, and there will be a copy of entire history or version of the code, all of its branches in their local server or mission. So in your local mission, you can have each and every code will be available in your local mission, as well as you can have the code in the centralized repository also. But when you go to the central version control, you will have all the code in the centralized server only. You can pull the code from the centralized server, you will work it on, and you will push the code into the centralized server. But here there is a very thin line. You will have the copy, you will have the entire code in your local mission, as well as you can have the copy of the code in the centralized version control also, in the centralized mission also. So that is what they are saying. Basically, every client or user can work locally and disconnected, which is more convenient than the centralized source control. That is why it is called as distributed. This is the main important point which you need to have a brief understanding between the, so this will make the separation or else difference between the centralized version control and the distributed version control. If you are having the local copy, every time you don't need to connect to the server. So there is no requirement of connecting to the server. Why? Because in server, so in centralized version control, every time we have to connect to the server. If we want to make any changes, we have to pull the code, and every time we have to connect to the server. If we want to apply any changes, and if we want to do any changes also, we have to be connected to the server. But when you come to the distribution version control, you will have your own copy. You will have your own copy. Of course, server is also having the same copy. You will pull the entire copy into your mission, and you will work it out on the mission itself. So you don't need to connect to that particular centralized server. There is no necessity of connecting towards the centralized server. So by disconnecting to that also, you can work on your project. Once you have completed your work, then you have to connect, then again you have to connect to your centralized repository, and you need to then you need to push all the changes into the centralized repository. So this is what we are saying here, which means that, let me be very clear with this. So if you see this diagram, you can understand this. So the centralized, if you want to make any commits, or every time you have to be connected to the server repository only. But when you coming back to the distributed, you will pull the data from the server repository. You will create your own server in your local mission. You will create your own repository in your local mission. That is the server repository in your local mission, in the sense either it might be your laptop or else your workstation where you are working in the company. You can create your own server repository. So if you make any changes, if you commit any changes, those will be applied on this repository only, on your local repository only. So you can make number of changes in the local repository, and after completion of your changes, you can push this entire code into the server repository. But here in the centralized thing, you have to work on the server repository only. You cannot get the copy of that. You need to be connected every time whenever you are working on your code. So this is the main difference between your centralized version control and distributed version control. So the best example of your distribution version control is your Git repository, whatever the Git we are using. So either it might be Git, GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, these are all comes under the distributed version controls. So now what I am going to do here is, first let us go for the understanding of Git. So I hope you understand what is distributed version control and central version control. Is there any doubts here? Do you have any doubts in the distributed version control and central version control? Guys, respond. Any queries that you want to ask? Okay, now let us go back and discuss about the Git. Now, if you see, we are into the Git configurations. So what is meant by Git? If you see here, a Git is a popular version control. It was created by the Linus Torvald, as we already know about this. And it is a source code management. What is meant by source code? Nothing but whatever the coding, whatever the language, or else whatever the programming that you are doing for the application, you can use Git to store that source code. Okay, it is used to track the code changes. If at all there are multiple changes are there in the code, so we can use Git and track who made the changes. So for example, there are multiple developers who are working on the same code, and if they have made any changes, all the changes will be applied on the Git, and Git will provide you the details about what are the changes that are made and who has made the changes. And coding collaboration, nothing but multiple developers can collaborate with a single code. And the next one is why Git. So these are the things you can understand. Over 70% of the developers uses Git. Developers can work together from anywhere in the world. Developer can see their full history of the project, and developer can revert to their earlier versions of the project. Now, what does Git to do? What Git is going to do? Managing project with the repositories. Managing project with the repositories are not, it is not a very new term to understand. Repositories are nothing but the folders. It is nothing but the directories. Okay. So what we can do, we can manage a project with the directories, clone a project to the work on my local copy. So if I am having my code in the Git repository, you can get the code from the Git repository to your local computer by just simply cloning. So you will come to know about all these things whenever we are doing the practical. And the next one is, for example, to understand this, first of all, what I will do here is I will deploy a server in my AWS region. In any AWS region, I will deploy a server, and then first of all, I will try to make some code. I will write some code so that you will be very clear about what is going to happen with the Git. Now, what I will do, I will go to my AWS and sign into the console. Sign into the console. EC2. So we will try to, I will try to install Git in a Linux machine, and then I will show you how to install Git in the Windows machine also in the next class. So I will tell you this is a Git machine. So I will do it as a Git server. So Ubuntu server, I will take the Ubuntu server and then log in with the keeper AWS V1 online, and I will log into AWS V. Okay, this is fine. Enable. Select an existing security group and launch the instance. So the instance will be launched in your AWS, in your Amazon account. Once the instance is launched, now what I can do here is I will try to access the server. Okay. So we will discuss about all these things. What is the SSH, how putty can be configured, everything can be repeated again and again. Also, you don't need to worry about how we are accessing this, but just try to understand what we are doing with the Linux machine. Now, what I am going to do here is I will try to access this server, and after accessing the Linux server, I will try to install the Git Git software, Git package. So accept sudo su hyphen and apt update hyphen y. After that, let me install my Git. Okay, so apt install Git hyphen y, so that it is installed in my Linux operating system. Now, if you see here, Git version, if I give the command Git version, so it is 2.34.1. Okay. So now what I will do here is I will create a directory mkdir. What I will do, website. For example, this is the directory that I am creating. cd website. So I will be logging into this into this directory. Now, if you see here, now what I am saying, if you see this thing, they are saying initialize Git on a folder, make it a repository. So so until we initialize the Git in this directory, so just now we have created a directory called as website. This is now called as a directory only until we initialize the Git. If you see here ls-al, we don't have any another things. We don't have anything, any another directory or else any another files are not available inside this website directory. But here what I'm going to do, git init. If I give the command git init, so I have initialized the Git. So what is this saying, using master and all that? We will discuss about that. But if you see here, initialized empty Git repository. Now, if you see here, ls-al, a new repository will be created. Now, this website is called as a repository, and this .git will have all the required files and folders for your Git. Whatever the plugins and all the things are available in this .git directory. If you go to the cd.git, so if you see here, you are having like branches. We will discuss about this head, the configuration, branches, hooks, info, objects, and references. All these are available. Where these files and folders are helpful for us, we will discuss about that. But as of now, a new repository is created when we initialize the Git. Now I can call this website as a repository. Until we initialize the Git, this is called as a directory only. Now we can call it as a repository. Now into this website repository, I want to create a small file. Simply I can create a file. So Git is now creates a hidden folder and keeping track of the changes in that folder. So whatever the changes that we made in the code. So first of all, I will create a code, and after I make some changes. When I make the changes, each and every change will be stored inside the .git directory. When a file is changed, added, or deleted, it is considered as modified. You can select the modified files you want to stage. Now, let us go back and create a file. Now I want to create a file. So here I will try to introduce you to the Terraform. So with the Git, we can go with the Terraform also. But now, first you understand what is this Git, and then later on we will go with the Terraform. Now what I will do here is I will create a directory. Sorry, I will create a file, nano index.html. This is the file that I am creating. So HTML and /HTML. Okay, and then here what I am going to do here is body. I'm going to give a simple example, body and /body. Okay, this is what I'm going to provide. And here what I will do here is P welcome to DevOps. I will just do like this. Okay, /H/P. So if I give like this, a file has been created. Now if you see here, index.html file is created. Now, if you see the git status, there is a command called as git status. Here you can see it is saying that now the user is on branch master and there are no commits set. Commits are nothing but saved. So we did not save any file into the git repository, no commit set. So untracked files, what are these untracked files? Untracked files are not saved files. What are the files that we have created? If we are not saving that with the git repository, then those are called as untracked files. So this index.html is an untracked file. Now, first what I have to do here is I want to make this file saved. Saved in the sense I want to make this file committed. Committed in Git terminology, committed means it is nothing but saved. So if I have to call in our normal IT terminology, committed, which means saving. So I want to save the file. Now what I want to do here is git add dot. What is this git add dot command is? Git, I want to send this index.html. Dot means here what is meant by dot, whatever the files that are present inside my current directory. So in Linux, dot represents the current directory where the user is currently residing. In that directory, whatever the untracked files are there, I am going to make them save. I am not saving. So here you need to understand this line very clearly. I am saying that we are not going to save the files. We are not going to save the files. Okay, right now we are not going to save the files. Adding will not save the file. So what add will do? Add will propagate, or else add will force the file to be inside the staging area. Staging area in the sense, now you want to travel from some XYZ location to ABC location. From source to destination, you want to travel. You are waiting for the bus. So that is called as staging, which means that you are about to save. You are waiting to save. So first of all, if you want to save the file, first the file need to be staged. And after staging, you need to go for the commit. You need to go for the saving. Now, if you see here, I will go for git add dot. If I give this command, and if you see the git status, now this is in red color. Now, if you see here, new file index.html. What is this? This is staged. The changes to be committed. Here, what it is saying, no commits yet. But if you see here, here also it is saying no commits, but it is saying that changes to be committed. You have a staging file. You have a cached file. Cached file means which is in the memory, which is in the temporary memory. You are having a staged file, that is index.html. Now, if you want to save, then you can go for git commit -m, which means that we are providing a name. -m in the sense we are providing a name for that. We are marking a name for that. So I will give it as index.html added. So this is the commit that I want to save. So before that, what it is saying, if you want to save this, it is asking me for the configuration. You need to configure the git. So you need to understand what is this configuration, staging, and committing. Now let us go back. Now, if you see here, you stage the files are committed. So if you see here, you select the modified file you want to stage. The staged files are committed, which prompts that Git to store the permanent snapshot of the file. Git allows you to see the full history. You will know all those things. Next one is what is meant by Git initialization. Just now we have seen that. And the next one is Git configuration. Now I am trying to commit it. Whenever I am trying to save the file, it is asking me for the Git configuration. If you see here, whenever I am trying to save the file, it is asking me for the Git configuration. Now, what is this Git configuration? After installing Git, we need to set the username and password. We need to set the username and password. It is okay. When we use Git to change the files in the project, Git uses the information to identify who made the changes to the files. So what Git is going to do, when I said you in the starting only, I said you that Git will track the changes depending upon who has made the changes, depending upon username and email address. The same it is doing. When we use Git to change the files in the project, Git uses the information to identify who has made the changes to the file. The command to add user and email address is git config. Now, what git config is helpful for? Git config is helpful for to understand who has made the changes. So whenever we are going for the git configuration, we have to provide the username and email address. So what is the hierarchy? So before we going to add the username and password, we need to understand the hierarchy. So there are multiple levels of configurations. For Git, there are multiple levels of configurations. One is repository level or project level, that is local. And the second one is user account level, that is global. And the third one is Git installation level or system level, that is Git installation directory, which means that if we are giving, so let me do one thing. Now I will go like this: git config -local, git config -local user.name. So I will give it as Chaitanya. Okay. And then what I will do, user.email, I will provide the user.email as chaitanya@gmail.com, for example. I have provided this. Now, this is the username and email address that are provided only for this directory, for this website directory. To identify who has made the changes in this website directory, I have provided the username and email address. Now, you can see the status also, or else you can commit now. If you go for the git commit -m index file added, now it is committed. Nothing to commit, everything is being committed now. Okay. Now, if I go back and I am going to create one more directory, Here I will create a directory here. What is the directory that I want to create here is mkdir web app. This is the directory which I am creating. After that, what I will do, git init. So I will initialize the git and I am going to add a file. So nano new file. So this is the new file which I am going to create, HTML. This is, I will write some code. This is new file which is created. Okay, so this is what I am writing over here, and I will save the file. If you see the git status in this directory, so here you are having some website. Come on, I have initialized completely root. Okay, sorry, this is not the one. CD web app. Okay, here inside the web app, I will initialize the git init. So once I initialize this, now what I can do here is, if you see here, I am going to create a file nano new.txt. So this is the file. This is the file in web app. This is the data that I am providing in this file. Now, if you see here, git status, it is showing me that new.txt is an untracked file. For that, what I can do here is git add, which means that I am about to save the file. And then if I go for git commit -m, new file is added. This is the declaration. This is the description I am giving for the save. Now, when you see here, it is asking me to give the username and email address. It is asking me to provide the username and the email address to make the changes. So to save the changes, it is asking me to provide the username and email address. But if you see here, in the previous directory, I have provided the username and password, username and email address. In which directory? In the website directory. In the website directory, where is it? Yeah, we have a website directory. CD website. Okay, in this website directory, I have provided the username and password. To know that, there is a command called as git config username and password. If we provide that, if you see here, git config --list show origin, or else you can go with the git config user email address. If you see here, I will give the command git config user.name. If I provide this, I have already created here Chaitanya. So this configuration, whatever the configuration that we have done, this configuration is only for this website directory. But this configuration, whatever the identification that I have made, this identification will not be applied for the web app. If I go back to the cd ... and cd web app, if I go to this directory, again I will go for git config user.name. So it is not displaying any username, which means that this configuration, whatever the identification that I have provided, that identification will be available only for the website repository only, website directory only. For the new repository, I have to create the new configuration. That is git config --local user.name. I will provide as user.name equal to, I will provide the username as, just give me a second. I will provide the username as Kumar. Okay. And what I will do, git config --local user.email address. Email is kumar@gmail.com. This is what I am going to provide. gmail.com. So when you see here, again, I will go with the git config username. So for this repository, for this web app repository, the username is Kumar. And for the website repository, the user identification is Chaitanya. So these are the local configurations which we have done. But when you go to the global configuration, what is the global configuration? So what I am going to do here is I will remove the username. I will remove the identification in the web app. To remove the identification in the web app, you are having a command called as git config --local. Now what I will do here is, here I will go git config local unset user dot name. When I give this command, uset or unset, just give me a second. Unset, correct. Okay, hyphen unset user dot name. When I give this command, and after that I will go for the user dot email. When I give these two commands, what is going to happen here? Git config username. Now, previously, when I give the command git username, you can see that Kumar. But now, when I delete these two, I will go with the username and as well as I will try to access the email address. The identification has been deleted. Why? Because we have given this command git config local unset, which means that we are removing the username and email address. We are removing the identification on the web app. But when you go to the website, cd //website, now, if you see here, git config username, you can see chaitanya@gmail.com. User email address is available. Now, what I will do here is, this is called as local configuration. This is called as local configuration. So anybody asks you in the interview, what are the different configuration levels in the Git? There are three configuration levels. One is local configuration, and the next one is global configuration, and the next one is server level configuration. Or else you can call it as a, what I can say, project level, user account level, and this installation level, or else you can call it as system level. So project level, user account level, and system level. These are the three different configurations that you are having. Now, we have done the local configuration. Now you need to understand the user to the entire user account. Now, I has logged into the root user. So whatever the website, whatever the repositories that you are creating in this root account. Now, what I will do, I will go back to web app. I will log into this web app, and again I will configure here git config --global. This is the user level, global user dot name, and I will provide as Kumar, and again global user dot email address. This time I will provide as global dot user dot email address kumar@gmail.com. If I provide the username and email address like this, if you go for git config user dot name, if you do this command, what it is showing? Kumar. So this particular repository is identified with the name as Kumar. So who will make the changes? Kumar is a user who can make the changes. Now, if you go back to the website, cd //website. Now, if you see here, git config user dot name, here you are having Chaitanya. Here you are having Chaitanya. But if I delete this, git config local unset user dot name, and when I go for unset user dot email address. Now my question here is, if you understand all this concept well, my question here is, if I give the command git config user dot name, do I get any output or not? That is my question. If I give this command, do I get like any username or not, any identification or not? That is my question here. So did you understand this? What we have done? If you see here, I have removed the local variable. Which means that whatever the identification that is done in this website directly, I removed that. My question here is, whenever I remove this local variable, do I get the output or not? That is the question. So no is the answer. Very good. But by default, see what you are going to get here is, here you are going to get Kumar. The output you got as Kumar. Previously, the identification on this website directory, website repository is Chaitanya. But when you remove, why? Because Chaitanya is the local user, which means that the identification is only for this website directory. But when you see here, we have configured a global user. This user can be accessible to the entire user account, to the entire root user. Now, what I will do, I will go back. I will exit from the root user. Now, if you see here, I have exited from the root user. Now I am in the Ubuntu user. What I will do here is mkdir new directory. I am going to create a new directory, cd new. I will be entering into the new directory. And here I will git init. I will initialize the git over here. So who is the user now? Previously, if you see, the user is root user. But now if you see, the user is Ubuntu user. So there is a difference in the user account. So previously I logged into my Linux server with the root user. Now I logged into my Linux server with the Ubuntu user. Now I have initiated the git. When I initiated the git, what I am going to do here is I am going to create a file, nano old.txt, and this is the Ubuntu user. I'm just giving some Ubuntu. Okay, so I will save the file. Once I save the file, what I'm going to do here is I will git add dot colon git commit hyphen m and old file added. This is the file which I want to save, but it is asking me for the configuration. You have to do the configuration. Here, what I will do here is git config hyphen hyphen global user dot name. Here I will provide the username as money. Okay, this is the username which I am providing. And again, I will provide the email address as for the identification purpose, and I will provide the email address as money@gmail.com. This is what I am going to provide. When I provide this, what is going to happen here? Git config user.name. If you see that money is the username. So if you create any repository, let me do one thing. cd dot dot mkdir old. I am going to create another repository, that is old repository, and I will move into the old repository. I will initialize the git in it. And if you see here in the old repository also git config user.name. If you give the username, it is showing you money. In any directory with this user, Ubuntu user, if you go for any directory, if you specify the global configuration, then that will be applied to the entire user. But I will go again back to the root user, sudo su hyphen. So now I was logged into the root user. When I logged into the root user, let me go back to, I will create a directory here, mkdir latest. This is the directory in the root user's account. I am creating the latest directory. So I will navigate to the latest directory. And here again, I will initialize that git init. I will initialize that directory. If you see here, git config user.name. When you provide this, so it is going to display like Kumar. So for Ubuntu user, the global user is money. But for the root user, the global user is Kumar. So the identification can be happen like this. So this is the configuration strategies. So in Git, you are having some configuration strategies where you are going, you can save your files by, first of all, you need to configure that particular directory. The configuration will show you the identification of the user, whatever the configuration username and email address that you are providing, that tells the identification, who saved the file, who committed the file. Depending upon the configuration, in configuration, we are providing the username and email address that will be applied onto that file. So in the properties, in the file properties, whenever the files are committed, in those properties, who committed this, that committed identification will be given by your configuration. So this is about your levels of configuration. Tomorrow we will discuss about git add, git staging environment, git commit, and all the things in the next class. So just I want to give you a briefing about what you are going to learn. So in this session, you are going to learn about Terraform, Ansible, and Docker, and the basics of the Git. We are going to learn about the basics of the Git, which will be helpful to understand the Terraform and Docker. And tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. we are going to start we are about to, so we will understand the Git, and then we will go further into the Terraform concept. So which is very important for you. Infrastructure wise, maximum number of interviewers are asking about the Terraform, Docker, and Ansible. So that's all for today. We'll meet in the next session. Any queries that you want to ask me, you can ask me right now. Open for you all. The floor is open for you all. Any questions, you can ask me. Queries, anything you want to ask me, you can ask me right now. Okay. So if no queries, that's all for today. Have a nice day and bye.